Hey, Gok here with a guide on the game-breaking Fugue. Okay, that was just a pun, but she is really good as she enables a very strong mechanic whilst also presenting a brand new one on top of other great benefits. Today, I'll go through how she works and how best to use her, as well as an Eidolon review by comparing the strength they give to a break DPS. Then it's on to best builds and Lycones whilst looking at teams at the end. I do go over her synergies in this video, but I also plan on going even further in depth in a future video, so stay tuned. Anyways, like and sub and share if this video helped, and let's begin. So Fugue is a fire nihility unit, yes again, but she isn't like Jasho gameplay wise. And her stats aren't too crazy, but her traces will make their speed go very high as we'll see later. For trace priority, she's probably one of the cheapest supports in the game. You can ignore her basic and ultimate completely. All you want to level up is her talent and skill. How nice. Onto abilities now and how to use them. Her skill will grant an ally the Phoxian Prayer status, and this works even on herself, and then she will enter the Torrid Scorch state for 3 turns, reducing at the start of her turns. She can reuse this on any turn, unlike Jade, but Phoxian Prayer will only apply to the most recent target. You can ignore the funny names though and just know what they do. Phoxian Prayer gives the chosen ally a small break effect buff, as well as a toughness ignoring effect. If said ally attacks an enemy without their weakness type, they will still reduce 50% of the original toughness value. So for example, if your ult was going to do 20 AoE toughness reduction, it will do 20 to enemies weak to you and 10 to ones that aren't, and it's still multiplied by stuff like reduction increase and weakness break efficiency. However, this toughness ignoring cannot stack with similar effects, for example Rapper's enhanced basic and Firefly's enhanced skill. The effect is still insane though for everyone else because, I mean, they're insane on Rapper and Firefly already. Having it on any character you wish is just a great mechanic. Now for the Torrid Scorch state. During this, Fugue enhances her basic attack. Now it goes from a one-hit ability to a blast attack. This means more toughness reduction in general, and it means AoE debuff application in the case of some light cones. And the final thing that happens is that whilst in this Torrid Scorch state, any attack from the Phoxian Prayer ally will make Fugue reduce the enemy target's death by 18% for 2 turns. This will refresh on repeated attacks, meaning yes, it does work for lots of Acheron stacks. Now, because Phoxian Prey's toughness ignoring doesn't stack on Rapper or Firefly, and only gives a small break effect buff at E0, you could actually just give it to someone else. For example, Linkshire. She would really appreciate the power it provides for toughness reduction. As for Fugue's ultimate, it has a cost of 130 energy and is a rather simple AoE attack. In fact, it applies no debuffs unless you have a debuffing light cone, which is a bit sad. But it will ignore all weakness types to reduce enemy toughness, and it is fully AoE. So it may seem lackluster, but there are so many 20 toughness enemies, 30 if you use Raw Mei, that can now be popped and killed by Fugue to help out your team. The real meat of Fugue's kit is in her talent though. While she is on the field, so it's up permanently from the get-go, 2 things happen. First, enemy targets get afflicted with Cloud Flame Luster equal to 40% of their max toughness. When their original toughness bar is reduced to 0, you can outbreak this new toughness bar from Fugue. This has been seen in MOC before and was known as Exo Toughness. I think having this mechanic in her kit is just awesome and gives her some future proofing. This secondary break bar means any break related effects can now happen twice in quick succession. So double the break damage, double the delay for survivability, double the energy from Harmony MC's trace, double the break proc damage from Raw Mei. Boothill can get double pocket trickshot, Rapper gets double charges. It's a really crazy mechanic to have in a break team. Just note, it doesn't mean double the break dots. And that's not even all. She has an innate 100% super break multiplier that she gives to the whole team, and we know how strong this is already thanks to Harmony MC. It's the same base power as them without requiring ult uptime, though that wasn't that hard. Now, despite being the same base multiplier, Harmony MC's super break is still stronger because of their Ascension 2 passive, which gives super break damage percent. But all in all, you have 50% toughness reduction ignore for one ally, and extra toughness and super break for all allies, all in one Phoxian support. Finishing with her technique, she will daze nearby enemies, and when entering battle against a dazed enemy, she will advance herself by 40% and also inflict a death reduction from her skill to all enemies. This is just an awesome opener, it isn't an attacking technique so you can stack it with others, it gives her a Von Wyk advance to get set up quickly, and it also boosts your DPS's first turn of damage. Traces now. Her first Ascension passive delays the enemy target by 15% when they are broken. Breaking has a base delay of 25% already, and so this totals to 40%. And with her Exo Toughness, that doubles to 80%. consider their next turn gone unless they are super fast. A second one is just a nice quality of life buff with a small break effect increase on top of regenerating a skill point upon her first use of skill, just like Harmony MC. By the way, the break effect buff only shows in combat, so don't worry if your stats look a bit low outside of it. Lastly, she will increase all teammates' break effect by 18% for 2 turns, and this can stack up twice. It happens when an enemy gets their weakness broken, so all the time with her, and it only requires that Fugue have over 220% break effect for the maximum buff, and it's not the end of the world if you can't max it out. For trace bonuses though, she has a whopping 14 speed, the highest yet, and bringing her speed pre-relics to 116, though remember her base speed is still 102. She also gets an additional 24% break effect and 10% HP. Now moving on to Eidolons before all things builds. Her E1 gives the ally with Foxy and Prey a 50% weakness break efficiency buff. This is the same as Ronmei but only to one target, but it is still a very potent thing to have, and paired with all her other benefits, this turns it into even more of a monster. It does now also mean Fireflies and Rappers get something worthwhile from the buff. E2 is suspiciously crafted. First, 3 energy for Fugue every weakness break. Considering she can enable 2 breaks to target, this can really supercharge rotations, especially in Pure Fiction. And then when using her ult, she will now advance the action of all allies by 24%, the exact same boost that Dance 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 S5 gives. How convenient. Now, this is really powerful to have and gives her ult an actual big benefit, but I will say that she works amazingly without it and even without E1. You don't need this advance considering Firefly runs at Mach 10, Rapper might have her signature, and Buto is run with Sunday or Bronya. Also, the advance won't even help you if you don't reach a certain turn threshold with it. So it's an amazing E2 for a support, but she is designed to be amazing at E0. E4 grants a 20% break damage buff to the ally with Foxy and Prayer. Now this is a rare multiplier increase as break doesn't use our traditional damage percent buffs, so this can be a pretty substantial buff to both break and super break damage. E6 now grants her a 50% weakness break efficiency buff and makes Foxy and Prayer take effect on all allies. So all allies can now ignore toughness, get 20% break damage from E4, and get weakness break efficiency from E1. Disgustingly powerful final Eidolon. But now onto builds. If you want pure damage, then Iron Cavalry is the de facto break set. She does dish out a ton of toughness with her ult, though it's fantastic. For other 4 pieces, you don't really have much else. I can see Windset being used in low cycle clears, especially with her E2, but otherwise not recommended for most players. And I can see Thief being used to help get out more ultimates in Pure Fiction. And to know she cannot use the Watchmaker 4-piece. I've seen that mistake a bunch on previous characters. She deals damage to enemies, she doesn't target any allies. But anyways, 2-piece mixes of break sets and or speed sets also work just fine, just like on any other break support. Thief and Cavalry or Cavalry and Hackerspace or Sakados and Watchmaker, etc. For her plain ornaments, she should be using Talia or Forge for the break effect benefits and speed in Forge's case. Though the 5% energy of some planers can help in some cases, and so if you want to run Break Rope plus Loose Shaka for more break effect whilst maintaining some rotations, I guess you can. And be sure to check the energy rotation section for this. And again, I can see some people use Vonrak to act insanely early, but most players won't care for that. Main stats will see you wanting an effect hit rate chest, speed boots, HP or Death Orb, and an energy or break rope. First 3 shouldn't really change, only the rope is interchangeable. Her ult doesn't really do anything except toughness reduction until E2, but toughness reduction can help teammates out much more than a bit more break damage from Fugue, especially ones like Rapper. And past the 220 or 250 break goals of her passive or the Cavalry set, you don't need more on Fugue. So if you're really struggling with her goal, then you can opt for Break Rope, but if your stats are great, and for example you're running a Break Cone, maybe not running Cavalry, or you're at E2, then I'd suggest an Energy Rope. So continuing this, let's check out her stat goals. You should get 67% effect hit rate to guarantee her debuffs, which is easily doable with her chest main stat and some subs. Then a decent amount of speed. Getting crazy speed isn't mandatory on her, but she's at 141 with speed boots alone, so you could aim for something like 160. For break effect, you'll then want 150 to 200%. 150 is for generalist fugues, and 200 is if you use the cavalry set. This is pre-combat, so then you'll add the 30 from her passive and 20 to 40% from planars, so Talia or Forge. If you don't have them, then you need more break effect. But remember, you can just get break effect buffs from allies, for example Watchmaker, Ronmei, Harmony MC. Now for Lycones, let's first take a look at her SIG, a 60% break effect buff first for those stat requirements. Then, just like another fine Nihility Phoxian signature Lycone, we have Vulnerability, except it's only for break damage. When an enemy gets their weakness broken, they get a 2-turn 18% break vulnerability debuff. However, this can stack twice for 36%, and her Exo Toughness mechanic thus makes this very easy to max out. In a vacuum, this is a lot of damage amp, but of course it's not exactly 36% in reality, as both break sustains have vulnerability in their kit, and so do all limited break DPS. Still an excellent damage increase for your team if you want to further upgrade, but I prefer E1. E1 gives more super break damage amp for your chosen carry, and leads to more breaks in the first place. For other options, you first have Resolution Shines. No break effect on it, but gives up to 16% def reduction from Fugue's attacks. It means she actually applies debuffs with her ult and basic now, and it scales pretty nicely due to her already having some def reduction in her kit. Not to mention break teams have very common def ignore buffs like the Cavalry set, E1 Raw Mei, and E1 of literally every limited break DPS right now. Following on def reduction, Tutorial is a neat option if you want more ultimates, especially at E2 Fugue. She can attack with her basics and ultimate, and there will be def reduction thanks to Phoxian Prayer. More on energy rotations in just a bit. Finally, you have Solitary Healing. Impure Fishing and can result in a bunch of energy considering her ult will break small enemies. This will apply a break burn dot from her, and then they'll die for loads of energy. Considering 4 small enemies, 4 kills, and 4 procs of this, that's nearly 50 energy. Outside of Pure Fiction, it won't be that considerable, but the break effect part would still be fine as a stat stake on your Fugue. Fermata is likewise a break effect stat stake, but provides no other utility, so I just use Solitary Healing or Tutorial if you have either free. Now on energy rotations, we have a lot of different ones, so check according to your build. With a Break Rope and 5% energy planar, you have a guaranteed ultimate in 5 turns, but the chances of being hit by then are so high that you might not even need the planar. With an energy rope, you guarantee 5 turns and have a possibility of achieving a 4-turn ultimate with some luck or kills or external energy. At E0 with Tutorial and an energy rope, you can easily hit a 4-turn ultimate, and even have the possibility of a 3-turn one. Swapping this energy rope for a 5% energy planar still ensures the 4-turn ult though, but it does make the 3-turn one much less likely. And then when Fugue hits E2 and only has an energy rope, she now goes from a 5-turn to a 4-turn ultimate. But we want more, don't we? Energy rope plus 5% energy planar can hit a 3-turn ult with 10 breaks. But this is only realistically happening in Pure Fiction where lots of mobs can spawn and be broken. But if we use Tutorial, at E2 with max energy regen, we get a very easy 3-turn ult with only 2 breaks required. But now, why would we use Fugue now break team? Who goes, who stays? Well, I found that Fugue can be a viable replacement to Harmony MC, naturally, but also to Rom Mei, and also to your precious healer in some cases. And I mean, if you are a Linkshot enjoyer, even the original main DPS can go, and Linkshot can take that status instead. And also, we can technically make 2 super break teams now instead of having to hurt the other side. For example, Firefly, Rom Mei, Harmony MC on one side, Boothill, Fugue, Sunday, or Bronya on the other. For comparisons, Harmony MC versus Fugue is going to be in Fugue's favor in most cases. The MC is excellent and offers better super break multipliers and break effect buffs, but otherwise Fugue just beats them. It's what she is designed to do. Fugue offers toughness ignoring, which is an insane new benefit for nearly every break DPS. And Fugue offers exo toughness, which means double the break procs for said DPS. Finally, instead of using an ult to give super break, she gives it innately, and instead has a toughness reducing ultimate. Not only that, she doesn't rely on only imaginary weak, unlike them, and can therefore help break bars no matter the element. So overall, she can have more toughness damage, and therefore super break damage, whilst also not relying on using tons of skill points. Harmony MC can abuse Dance Dance Dance, which can be something you want to still use. But remember, we are getting a new MC soon, and you can bet they'll be just as crazy as Harmony MC was if they're releasing Fugue at the very end of 2.7. And if you want to use them together, you get even more energy for Harmony MC with Exo Toughness. Paired with Dance Dance Dance, and you have a mini Robin for your break team. You will also get even more super break multipliers for the whole team. Having multiple super break enablers doesn't mean you lose out, it just means you have even more damage multipliers. It's still a crazy combo. Replacing Rom Mei is a little trickier. In some cases, it'll be on par, maybe a loss. In some cases though, it can be an upgrade. We'll have to wait for way more testing, and it can all depend on toughness thresholds. Rame offers weakness break efficiency, some OK break damage procs, and res pen. If we are looking at raw numbers alone though, without other teammates, having 100% super break multipliers and extra toughness is just more damage for your carry. But the real strength of Rame in the super break team is the combination with a super break enabler, as that weakness break efficiency also contributes to insane damage increases. The whole combo of enabling the whole team to super break and then Rame giving them all efficiency creates a crazy team that all does big damage together. We've seen it so much already. So ideally you run them together over replacing Rame, but if you don't have her, then yes, you can use Fugue in her place. And at E1, I'd say Fugue just wins. But you can also replace your sustain. With Harmony MC's delay on A6, Fugue's delay on A2, Rame's delays, the base toughness delay, and extra toughness giving you a second break, survivability becomes much less of a problem. There's also dance for those that have it. There are still bosses like a certain wolf that can come back from that, but a lot of enemies can't. No sustain teams should be break's bread and butter at this point, despite them releasing 2 break sustains. Break sustains still offer big toughness damage though, and with super break, it's why they're so strong. For units that benefit from Fugue, first let's look at the limited break carries. Firefly actually doesn't see as many benefits as you'd think due to her already having toughness ignore and really wanting the highest super break multipliers. But Fugue is still better on the SP over Harmony MC most of the time for E0 Fireflies, still contributes more damage most of the time, and also gives Firefly more break damage. At E0 Firefly with Fugue, you can now get 2 breaks in quick succession, which gives a lot of front-loaded damage, even if the super break is a bit weaker. And at E2 Firefly, I find Fugue's extra toughness to be a very nice benefit to avoid pesky Lingshas from stealing her E2 procs. It is much easier to always proc her E2 with Fugue on board. Also, breaking with her E2, getting the extra turn, and then breaking extra toughness just deletes enemies. Boothill adores Fugue as he can now get 3 pocket trickshot at E0 in his very first turn. It requires a smaller enemy and you'll need to defeat some toughness, or use Rame, or Fugue E1, or Boothill E1, and it is so beautiful to see. It completely supercharges his first turns and removes the weight of getting to his max power. And getting multiple pocket trickshot also gives him even more energy. 3 in his first turn means he can first turn ult, which is crazy news, and paired with Sunday, you are ulting out of the wazoo and taking hundreds of turns. Oh, and he can now ignore toughness at 50% efficiency with Fugue in case you can't ult. What a patch for Boothill. Now Rapper is salivating at seeing Fugue's Exo Toughness kit. Double the charges is absolutely monstrous for Rapper, even if the toughness ignoring doesn't stack. All Rapper wants for Christmas is more breaks, and that's what Fugue is all about. And yes, it works for her elite passive, and yes, that means more energy. It makes her even more of a beast in Pure Fiction, and buffs her so much in Memory of Chaos and Apocalyptic Shadow. She was already viable in Imaginary Apocalyptic Shadow, but gets even stronger, and now she's already viable in Memory of Chaos. Insane glow up for the Erudition unit. Linkshare isn't what they call a break DPS on the Star Rail livestream, but we all know what she can do, and she can run the sustainers team of Harmony MC, Rame, Fugue, but all whilst being a sustain. With toughness ignoring from Fugue, she is like your own Rapper that heals, though of course without as much damage as Rapper could provide. Now, other units still exist, and the older break DPS actually loved breaking more than some of our recent ones. Himiko's talent is all about those charges, and extra toughness is making Himiko a pizza slicing monster. Paired with Rame and your follow-ups will shred subsequent extra toughness bars to go again. And with elites giving her max charges, you can break them twice in quick succession for 2 back-to-back talents. Super break Himiko with Fugue is just amazing, and Himiko just can't stop winning. She is very viable in multiple builds despite being a 1.0 standard 5-star. Next, I can see Shui breaking joys like Fugue, as she gets more toughness to reduce even post-break. You solve the problem of not getting karma stacked, and with Super Break, you solve the problem of not having post-break damage, all in one unit. Shui does ignore toughness on ult and talent, so you don't get anything crazy with Foxy and Prayer, but at least her skill gets a little buff. And Break Su Shang and Luca, and I mean even Firebreak DPS, all also benefit from Fugue. Physical and Fire have the strongest break damage, and so doubling that is excellent for them on top of the other benefits. I think we could also see a lot of units become pseudo break DPS. I mean, she gives toughness ignoring, like Rapper has, she gives extra toughness for double the breaks, and she gives super break multipliers all by herself. Paired with Rome and a lot of non-break DPS can now be break somewhat as a fun alternative build, though I doubt in a lot of cases it would beat their original build. Finally, people will want to know about Acheron. I mean, she is Nihility, right? But that doesn't mean an exact synergy as she is break-oriented, not debuff or damage amp-oriented. She can run Resolution and debuff every turn, and she can also make the Sustain debuff every attack if she gives them Phoxian Prayer. On a unit like Aventurine E0, S0, or Linkshire, that is so many debuffs, but with other Sustains it wouldn't be a great combo. But still, the fire Phoxian for Acheron is Jiao Cho. I would not pull Fugue for Acheron, only for Break. And then if you use her for Break, you can sometimes use her with Acheron if not using Break. The only damage increase for Acheron from Fugue here is some Death Shred and some Super Break multipliers which she can't abuse as she is not good for Super Break like a Firefly is. But yeah, that's all on Fugue today. I'll have a bit of a better look into teams in the next video, and I might do a third video on her mechanics a bit more. So like and sub if this helped, and let me know if you're pulling for her. Thanks to my amazing YouTube members, thanks for watching everyone, and have a good day.